Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Laura Pence. Welcome and thanks for being here. If this is your first time, make sure you're clicking on that subscribe button. Okay, I want to make sure you come back next week. And if you're a returning subscriber, good to have you here again. So this month, we're talking about what needs review and revision, right? We spent the month of January diving into that question, who am I? And now we're moving into what in my life needs to be reviewed and then revised. Tuesday's episode walked you through an exercise of how do you drop into your body and become more aware of when your body is signaling that something needs to be different, right? Today we're going to talk about how your values can be a signal that something needs to be different. Now in January, I introduced the concept of your values and your behaviors being in alignment, right? That how you're behaving needs to align with your value system in order for you to basically feel your most whole, right? So your values can be a really good indication of when something needs to change. Because if your values and your behaviors are out of alignment, then that is a key indicator that something is awry, that something needs to be different, right? So let me give you an example of that. Let's say that commitment is one of your values, right? But you're in a relationship where you know that your partner is not committed to you, okay? And you're continuing to be with that partner. You're continuing to overlook maybe some transgressions. You're kind of, turning your head away from what's going on maybe a little bit and ignoring it because you love that person and care about that person and want to remain in that relationship. But this value over here is also being ignored. So your behaviors, right, your sort of even commitment to that value itself, to the value of commitment, is coming into question. Well, that is an indication then that something needs to change because you are out of alignment, right? So how you're behaving and what you are moving towards is moving you actually further away from your value system. So checking in with your values can be a really good way of then beginning to answer the question of, does this need to be revised, right? So let's think of another example. So let's say one of your values is hard work, but you're at a job where you're finding yourself scrolling on Instagram a whole lot more than you're actually working, okay? So if you were to check in with your value system in that moment and say, one of my values is hard work, and I'm not actually working very hard at my job. And maybe that's great because I get a paycheck anyway, but it actually isn't leaving me very whole and feeling very complete or fulfilled. I think I might need to change my job, right? So circling back to your value system and asking yourself the question, is this in alignment with my behaviors, is a really good way for you to begin to identify what needs to be changed, what needs to be different, and what needs pivoting, okay? So just remembering to circle back to your value system, right? So I'm going to use that a lot in the month of February as we dive more into what needs review and revision, asking you to circle back to your value system and ask whether or not this is in alignment with your values, okay? So join me next week. Next week, we're going to spend the entire week taking a look at your relationships, taking a look at maybe which relationships need to be different, which relationships are you not invested anymore, and how can you change the things that you want to be different, okay? So we're going to start that on Tuesday's episode. Make sure, again, if you haven't subscribed, click on that button so that you subscribe. And also, if you're interested in becoming a patron on my Patreon page, that's going to get you a whole lot more information that's really going to sort of deepen this video series and kind of expand some of the work that you're doing here. So click on the link below just to get some more information about that as well. Okay, I'll see you next week. When we understand what we're good at and what we're not good at, can I start over?